Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm Gamesplaining Railroad Revolution. Now I've set the game up as a two-player game, red versus blue. Red is the first player as marked by that. On your turn, you are going to choose one of these four actions to do. So that is building a station, extending your railroad, building a telegraph, or trading. To show which one you've selected, you'll take one of your meeples and place it on the action. You'll then do the action that's at the top, and I'll go through what these actions are in a moment. And then you have an option of doing whatever color the meeple you're using, their action from that same space. The aim of the game is points. There is a scoring pad at the end of the game. Places where you will have points showing are over on that space. There are three different actions that you can chase points on. The bottom line, which is the Western Union track, you'll get points if you have your buildings on each side of a points marker. So that at the moment is worth 8 points. If you were to build there as well, you would get another 5 for that. There are points on these cards, and I'll talk about those cards in a moment. And there are points on these cards, which are the things you're trying to fulfill. You'll notice there's quite large points on those, so they're worth going after. So let's just really quickly talk about what these three tracks are talking about. The track closest to me, so on the left, this side, you're going to get this number of points on the Western Union line, multiplied by the number of officers you have down on the bottom here. The next one across is you will get whatever number you're up to, multiplied by the number of these stations you have out. And the far one is whatever number you're up to, multiplied by how many of the level 5 cities you've managed to get to, which are on the other side of the country. So it's worth moving up those tracks, or at least the tracks that you think you're going to be able to score well on. If you're trying to get really far with your train track and try and get to the 5s, it's worth some big points, but you need to get up to the top of that track for it to be worth those big points. So how do you play the game? Well, it's actually a relatively straightforward game. You start with 5 meeples. You'll choose one of them and choose one of these 4 spots. Once you've chosen one of the 4 spots, you will do the action of the spot, and then you have the option of doing the action that is connected with the color meeple you put on it. Everyone starts with 4 white and 1 random different colored meeple. So the first spot is placing a station. That can go either here or here. Now the first person who places a station gets the benefit, which is on the left hand side, and then everyone who places a station on this spot would get what is on the far side. By red going here, firstly it will cost $500, which is written just above the station. He would then gain 2 of these tokens, and then he would also have the choice of gaining a purple or a blue guy, and he might throw the purple in. If instead of going there he came here, he'd be able to push his tile up 2 spots on one of these tracks, or 1 spot on this track and 1 spot on another track. It's totally up to the player to separate that round and then get an orange or a grey guy. Depending on what coloured guy got played, he would be able to do another action. Now to start with the white guys, they all can do the middle action, and any coloured guys can choose to do that middle action. The middle action is how you'll get guys across onto here. So if he did play that, he could go, I want a purple guy there, and that's the secondary action of the white guy. This card, he doesn't have to claim this card straight away. He's looking for 1 rail that goes past the handshake spot, which is one of these spots, and a station in a level 2 city, which is that one there, or one of these 2. If he were indeed to actually play the purple guy, he could gain an extra train tile for $100. So wherever there's a negative number, it's a cost. Wherever there's a positive number, it's a gain. If this guy was orange, he could claim the station but not have to pay the 500 money, so the money cost on the top. If he plays a turquoise guy, he could pay 300 money to take the primary action of the space a second time. If he chose the grey one, he could gain the first player thing again. Obviously, if it's a cost one, he would have to pay the cost again as well. This one, it's going to cost him 400 money to put down 2 tracks. You always take them from the left-hand side of the tracks available. The game will finish, by the way, when one player has used up all of the tracks and stations within his board space. So he'll take 2 railway tracks and lay them down. Now, the 2 railway tracks cost him 400 money. It's going to cost him another 100 money for every triangle, which is basically hard to cross terrain, that he has to go through. If, for example, he were to place one there, that wouldn't cost him any extra because there's 3 lines. If he then placed one there, that would cost him 300 extra. So it'd be a total of 700 money to place that. He only has 6 to start with, so he's going to have to make some money before he's able to do that. He could place that there to spend the 600. Or he could place the other one there. Notice he has to come out of spaces where he already has rails connecting back to this original space. If he were to play coloured guys, if it was purple, he could spend 300 money to get one of those tiles again. If it was orange, he could gain 100 money and 50 for every space. So basically that's a discount off this cost. So rather than having to spend the whole amount, he would have to spend 300 to place the 2 tracks, and then only 50 per triangle that he's going over if he puts an orange one on that spot. If he uses turquoise, he could place another rail. He would also have to pay the cost for the other rail. So if he were to go there, he'd have to pay another 200 because there's 2 triangles on that. And if he played grey, he would gain 2 more of these shares into his stock. Coming along to the Western Union spot. When you use the Western Union spot, you take the building that is furthest to the left and you place it on one of these spots along the bottom of the board. He could place that one there. He would gain 2 shares. Because he's the first one there, he gains another 2. So that would gain him 4 of those shares total. Anyone else who places their building there would gain just 2, not the 4. Either of these or both of these can choose to claim that. What this is talking about is it's going to cost one guy from either on the board or off the board to push his tile up 4 spots. Now that little marker is costing another guy. The only thing you've got to remember is that you must have at least 4 guys available. So it's on the board or off the board, not on these cards. Using the purple guy, you can trade one guy in for another guy of a different color. Using the orange guy, you can gain 100 money for each share that you have. So if it was this player, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He has 11 shares, which is abnormal, by the way. But if you had 11 shares, he would gain 1100 money for that. If he had a turquoise guy, he could spend 400 money instead of trading a guy in to use the card. So if he wanted to use that card and he had the turquoise, he'd spend 400 money instead of the guy and then move up 4 spots on that far section of the board. If he uses a grey guy, that enables him to receive the first player bonus. If indeed he was the first player anyway, and he used the grey guy, he could receive that first player bonus twice. Moving along, we're almost there. We come to the trade section. On the trade section, you are taking one of the items that is furthest to the left. So in this case, it's a rail. You take that off your board. You will gain 500 money. So there's the 500 money, which is written just here. you are then able to flip one of these tiles over. If you have more of them, you can choose which one to flip. What they're showing is if they're face up at the end of the game, it's giving you 8 points. If you flip this over, this moves 2 guys onto these tiles. So I could go one there and one there, flipping that over. If, however, I were to use a turquoise guy now, I could flip that over again because that's an extra change on the cards. If I choose the purple guy here, I'd move up 3 spots on any of those tracks. If I choose an orange guy over here, I would gain 100 money for every one of these train cards I have, face up or face down. And if I were to use a grey guy over here, this allows you to select one of these deals, which we haven't spoken about yet, and I'll get to in a second, but you would gain one of these shares back by doing that. So what are those deals? Those deals happen whenever someone actually fills up one of the spaces with a little handshake on it. You'll notice there's some little handshakes down here, there, on a few spots around the board. Whenever someone, say, this person put it in there, they would get a handshake. What that allows them to do is trade in their shares. So this guy could trade in 3 shares to the bottom one and 1 share to do the top one. The top one will cost him 200 money to get one of them, and the bottom one would allow him to put one of his Western Union lines into the Telegraph line, so anywhere in here really. The only thing is he's not going to take any shares. The reason for doing that is he's now got 5 points at the end of the game because he's on either side of that one. Once that's done, the other players in turn order are allowed to select one of the 2. The person who filled up the handshake spot doesn't have to take both, but they have the option of taking both. Everyone else can only take one of them. And so they'll trade in, say, he might trade in 1 to take one of those tiles. And that's pretty much the game. You have the choice to spend 800 money for 1 extra guy, and you can do that at any time you wish all the way through the game, but it's pretty expensive, so you'll tend to find that you won't do that too often, but it is available to you. Otherwise, you're just trying to fulfill these cards, fulfill what's on those cards. All of the details are on the back of the rule book for finding out what those cards mean. Once you fulfill one of those cards, you will gain an extra card. Once you fulfill a B, you'll get a C. Once you fulfill a C, you'll get a D. These both are A's, so they'll both become B's once they're fulfilled. You'll always have 2 to fulfill, and they can be some substantial points for you at the end of the game. Other things to be aware of is you must have a minimum of 4 guys working for you. So if you have 4 guys only, you cannot claim one of those or do anything that would lose more guys. It doesn't matter what their colours are or if they're on the board or off the board, they must be 4 of them. And once all of your guys are at work, the beginning of your turn would be pull them all in and then have your turn as normal. That's not an extra action, it's just something that you can do. And the other thing to be aware of is these are actually worth money, so you could at any point during your turn trade one of them in, or as many of them as you like, for $150 each. I think that's everything I need to say about Railroad Revolution. If you'd like an idea of how the game actually plays, please go on and watch my Gamesplay. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you would like to be Gamesplaned, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games that I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.